you enjoy these videos, please on my mama hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks. Now back to the video. What are some serial killer facts about serial killers that you find extremely interesting? Pee Wee Gaskins, most prolific serial killer in SC, drove around in a hearse with a bumper sticker that read "I haul dead people." He told people that he needed it to take the bodies of people he killed to his private cemetery. He claimed to have killed between 100 and 110 people. When police eventually came to the house of Ed Gein, they found an absolute pigsty. Gein had been living alone since the death of his brother in a barn fire. It's speculated that Gein may have killed him and had let much of the house go into disrepair. They found countless body parts from his various grave digging excursions, including a bag of wilted vaginas and, of course, the infamous skin lampshade and half-finished woman's suit made of human skin. There were maggots living in old bushes in the kitchen. It was the type of disorganized mess that you would expect from a man who spent his nights completely disconnected from reality. All except one room. His mother's room upstairs remained pristine, except for dust that had collected and seemingly untouched from the time of her death years earlier. He had such a fear or respect for his mother that he was afraid to set foot in her room long after she had died. He claimed to hear her voice criticizing him from time to time. This was the central experience that inspired Norman Bates' character to maintain his mother's home image in Psycho. Also a fun fact about Gein. In Taxi Driver, Travis Bickle makes an offhand comment when leaving a diner that he had a cup of coffee and a slice of apple pie with cheese on top. In exchange for details to investigators after his capture, Gein requested the same meal. A bag of wilted vaginas. I'm going to use that as my new go-to insult. In the John Wayne G case, there were so many bodies crammed underneath the house that the bodies melted together and the bones had to be sorted for more than 2 years to put together the full skeletons. Piggybacking on this, since it's on JWG and I just read a book on him, apparently one of the ways he would de-escalate a police search for his victims was by calling into the police station anonymously and reporting a fake sighting of the victim. This led the police to believe that the victims had not in fact been missing, but instead had run away, thus deprioritizing their search. The Hillside Stranglers picked up a young woman to murder. Then they discovered that her father was Peter Lorre, a legendary Hollywood character actor. They let her go because they feared that killing a celebrity's daughter would bring too much attention down. Dennis Rader, aka BTK, Bind Torture Kill, started communicating with police after years of silence, and like 2004-ish, he had gone decades without being caught and once again started sending taunting letters and items to them. He asked them if he could be traced if he sent them his writings on a floppy disk, and they assured him through a communication in a newspaper that no, they couldn't trace him. He sent them a floppy disk and they found metadata linking to his church. He was arrested shortly thereafter. He was hurt that they would lie to him because he thought they had developed a rapport. He was hurt that they would lie to him because he thought they had developed a rapport. You cheated. Not fair. The serial killer Bela Kiss liked to pickle people in barrels stored in his basement. Someone figured it out, but they couldn't get him because he was fighting in World War I. By the time they tracked him down, he had disappeared and left a dead guy in his hospital bed. He supposedly joined the French Foreign Legion and deserted that too. And I think history loses track of him after that, with the exception of one possible sighting as a janitor in New York. The janitor disappeared before anyone could confirm it. I believe the only reason they found the barrels was because they believed he was storing gas and there was a massive shortage on it at the time. Bela was away at war, so they broke in his garage to find the barrels, only they didn't find gasoline. Mac Ray Edwards. He was a serial killer who worked for Caltrans. He'd kill his victims and then bury the bodies in places he would later help build the highways over. Not all his victims have been found, and many are very likely still under some of the California highways you may have driven over countless times. Edit. Thanks for the silver. I appreciate it. But I bet we drive over a lot more buried corpses than we'd ever be comfortable knowing. This is always my thought when driving to Vegas through that desolate landscape. Mobsters from Vegas and LA have been known to dump bodies there. Drives on road. I am decomposing air. I live in Las Vegas and recently heard the local meaning of 86th was getting killed by the mob and buried 8 miles out into the desert, 6 feet deep. It just so happens a lot of the Las Vegas suburbs are about 8 miles from downtown. Mine is almost spot on 8 miles. House here don't have basements and are built at grade. Makes me wonder how many bodies are under our houses because no one ever dug deep enough to find them. Makes me wonder how many bodies are under our houses because no one ever dug deep enough to find them. Thank you. I don't recall which one it was, but I remember hearing that there was a killer who would only go into the home if the front door was unlocked because otherwise he didn't feel welcome. Lock your doors, people. I swear I only lock my door at nights because I heard about this guy. My partner makes fun of me because we live in the ass end of nowhere and no one locks their doors. But we haven't been killed by delusional vampire murderers even once. So who's the real idiot? Partner? I am surprised we don't hear more about Robert Hansen in popular culture. He would kidnap women and turn them loose in the Alaskan wilderness, where he would then hunt them down like animals and kill them. He didn't have the highest number of victims, but his method of hunting them for sport is absolutely insane. He's not the only one to have done it. I forgot his name, but apparently a wealthy Mexican politician had the same MO. He once spared a girl and returned her to the street because she refused to run. Sadly, she was not believed and he killed several more before being arrested. There's a good film starring Nicolas Cage and Vanessa Hudgens about Robert Hansen. 50 Cent was one of the producers. It's called The Frozen Ground. It's very well made, compared to most serial killer thriller films. Jeffrey Dahmer didn't eat people with tattoos because he said the ink made the flesh taste weird. Be safe, get inked. How Jack the Ripper always cut the throats of his victims in a way that stops blood from getting on his clothes. Just stand behind them. Yes, police this guy right here. I have a family member who briefly dated this guy. She almost but not quite fit the profile of his victims. One time when he picked her up, her adult son was visiting the house, met him, and shook his hand. He ghosted her after that. Also, my mom was living in a mobile home park in Wichita during BTK's killing spree. My dad was deployed overseas. They had a big German shepherd who she would put outside for a little bit every night before going to sleep, and she said for a while she had to bring him in early because he would just go crazy barking, growling, and snarling every night. Shortly after he stopped doing that, there was a BTK murder not too far from the mobile home park. Scary stuff. Some older homes in Wichita have a second landline installed by the door because he was notorious for cutting phone lines. People would come home and check the line by the door, then the other line, just to reassure themselves. That is a scarily mundane solution to a fucked up problem. Brazilian serial killer Little Petty murdered over 40 people in prison. He began by murdering the gang that killed his girlfriend and then stabbing his father, who was in prison for killing his mother, during a visit. He was one-like because he was considered a sort of vigilante avenger, despite killing indiscriminately within prison. No difference between drug possession and a murderer. Because of Brazil's odd sentencing laws, he could only serve a maximum of 30 years, and is currently a YouTuber and ranch hand, I think. My grandmother met Ted Bundy on her college campus, and he attempted to get her friend to go off with him. My grandmother said she got a bad vibe from him because he was such a happy person, and she felt like he was forcing the emotion a bit much. Her friend, however, wanted to go with him and was completely blinded by his charm. My grandmother took her friend by the hand and walked away. She said his face changed completely as they did. It's crazy to me that with charm and looks alone, girls were willing to go with him even after several had gone missing or had been found dead. Dr. Harold Shipman. He lost his mother, watching how morphine eased her pain before she passed. Then he became a doctor, using morphine overdoses to kill people, especially rich old ladies, and wrote himself into their wills with forgery. He was eventually caught because it was suspicious that every single one of his patients had him in their will, and that they all died under his care. But he did inherit a number of estates and a lot of money before getting caught. TLDR. Doctor killed patients and stole their money using the same drug that eased his dying mother's pain when he was younger. The Scranton Strangler is still at large.